Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July edition of the Lebanon Redevelopment Commission. I will begin by calling ourselves to order and beginning as the way we do each meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you all, and we will note that all members of the commission are present, so full attendance this evening. One other kind of admin spot that we're going to skip over for a moment is just our minutes, so we will take care of our minutes at a future meeting. That moves us directly down to old business. I don't have any old business on our agenda, so we'll move on to our two new business items. First up is our TIF annual report, and I believe Annika is here from Baker Tilly to give us some high-level information.
Good evening. Wait for that to load on there. Annika Sinekin with Baker Tilly. I am here to present your TIF annual report presentation, which is required by state statute to present to the Redevelopment Commission. This discusses the RDC's long-term plans, goes over the TIF budget, and then any impacts of the TIF to the overlapping taxing units. For today's presentation, I'll touch base on some basic TIF mechanics, and then I'll go into a little bit about Lebanon's TIF areas, and then some brief impacts on TIF on overlapping taxing units. Also, I meant to check, does everybody have a copy? Okay, if not, there's some extras over there. So you've seen this slide before, but we like to kind of briefly show some TIF mechanics. So whenever a TIF allocation area is created, the assessed value of the overlapping taxing units remains the same as that allocation area is created, which is that gray box at the bottom called the base assessed value. Any new economic development or new development that is created within an allocation area, that new assessed value, which is that blue triangle there, is the revenue that can be generated within an allocation area. Once that allocation area expires, the assessed value from that new development then gets passed to the overlapping taxing units, which you can see from that new development plus the base assessed value becomes the estimated new assessed value to those overlapping taxing units at the expiration of an allocation area. I wanted to highlight a few terms, just kind of a basics of an allocation area. So the first term would be a tax increment allocation area, which is where the TIF revenues can be captured. The next term is an economic development area, which is where those TIF revenues or TIF dollars can be used to spend. So kind of looking at just some general boundaries here. The black boundaries is, for example, a town, so the city of Lebanon. The city of Lebanon can have an economic development area within it, which you do. So that red box here is the economic development area. And then the economic development area has an allocation area, or it can also have multiple allocation areas, which Lebanon does have. The third term that I want to touch base on is a special benefits tax. A special benefits tax is something that the RDC can be elected to be levied on the tax base within a town, which it is coterminous with the town. The RDC has not used that special benefits tax to pay any outstanding bonds within the Redevelopment Commission. However, many of your bonds do have that special benefits tax backup, which serves as an extra layer of marketability on your bonds to get better interest rates and look better to the market. Depending on when an allocation area was created will depend on the expiration of that allocation area. So you have several older TIF areas or expansions of a TIF area. So those have different expirations as opposed to maybe a newer allocation area that is created at current time. So going into the next slide, I'll show you is for your industrial park allocation area, which has multiple different creations or expansions that apply to this. So as mentioned, you can see your industrial park allocation area was first created in 1994 and has multiple different expansions, and with that has multiple different expirations. So you can see on this slide here within the gray shaded area is your estimated TIF revenues generated within the industrial park allocation area. And depending on when that allocation area expires or the expansions do, you can see there's some drop-offs of that revenue just throughout the term of this allocation area. Your industrial park allocation area has currently 6 outstanding bonds. Each of these bonds use TIF revenues. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to not be. All right. These bonds all use TIF revenues to pay off the debt service. And as noted on there, each of these bonds have a property tax or a special benefits tax backup, which you have not historically needed to use. But again, it serves as an extra layer of support in case those TIF revenues would so happen to not cover those bond payments. We know you like to see just kind of a 5-year look out of your cash flows within the industrial park allocation area. So looking at the top for your revenues, we show estimated TIF and outstanding leases or lease payments generate or revenues from those. And then for your expenses, we look into just a combined of your debt service payments and then annual pay-as-you-go projects that go through in the industrial park allocation area. And then down at the bottom, you can see we have a coverage percentage, and that percentage is based off of the estimated TIF revenues to your expenditures. We show that just because, as you know, each year you have to annually elect to see if you want to pass through any assessed value from your TIF areas, which you historically have not had to. But if an allocation area would have over 200% coverage, the council could elect to have assessed value be passed through to those overlapping taxing units, which, as you can see, you're below that 200% threshold. Within your industrial park allocation area, you have, we're moving on from that. You have several other developer TIF areas, which are smaller TIF areas. So you have your Scott Barrett TIF area, FiberNet, State Road 32, Patterson Street, New Cold, and New Cold Phase 3, Paddock Place, Project Leap Phase 1, which is the Meta, and then DA Lubricant, Ken's Foods, Waterford, and Cedars. So with these, some of them have outstanding bonds and some do not. So the ones that do not have a TIF expiration on them quite yet. So within the ones that have outstanding bonds, some have a full 100% pledge of TIF to pay off that debt service. And you can see a few of them do not have that pledge. So the ones who have a split pledge, the RDC keeps a portion of that tax increment, and then the other portion goes to the developer to pay off those developer purchase bonds. The next allocation area to highlight is your downtown allocation area. As you can see, this blue shaded box is your estimated current development. Unfortunately, to SEA 1 deductions that have been implemented, that is only estimated to generate TIF through 2029, and that'll fall off. And then also you still have estimated Forza TIF that has an estimated tax increment minimum payment on it. Something I did notice that should be carried out to 2036, so I apologize on that. But you do have that minimum payment to have at least a little bit of Forza TIF to be generated within the downtown allocation area. Looking into your Gateway Marketplace allocation area, it's a little bit light, but this back piece right here is your estimated TIF generated within the Gateway Marketplace allocation area. It was created in 2018 and expires once the outstanding bonds expire in 2043. As you can see, there's a little bit as the development is being fully assessed for taxes payable 2027. Pay 26 has a little bit of outstanding, or has a little bit of food and beverage revenues that are needed as a backup pledge to cover those bond payments. Moving into your Fieldhouse allocation area, it was created in 2021 and expanded in 2022 and expires in 2047. As you know, this was created to help fund a $25 million multi-use sports Fieldhouse. And there's also additional surrounding development that is like hotels, residential, entertainment, and et cetera, that is to be built out in phases and to come on as TIF revenues within the allocation area. You have 3 outstanding bonds within the Fieldhouse allocation area. The first one, the 2022A bonds were obligated to pay or help fund the Fieldhouse. And then the 2022B and 2024 bonds were used to help with the public infrastructure to pay that, or to help fund that. Going into this very, very stacked revenues from the proposed development slide. So I'm going to look first at this yellow shaded at the bottom, and that is your estimated TIF. That estimated TIF represents the apartments and Fieldhouse that are fully, and any other development that is fully completed and generating TIF revenues. Going into this bigger gray shaded part is your surrounding development. So that represents any housing, senior living, restaurants, retail, et cetera, that is estimated to come on over the next few years and generate TIF within the allocation area. This next darker shaded portion is your estimated future warehouse TIF revenues once those are fully developed and come on. And then above that, above all the development TIF, we're going to look at this next shaded, which is the estimated company operating revenues. You have a $600,000 pledge from the company that comes as revenues to you. And then on top of that, the other 2 additional shades are the food and estimated food and beverage revenues and estimated innkeeper's tax revenues. So taking all of that big chunk from that slide over to this one, this light blue shaded in the back are those revenues being pulled over. So here we're showing the estimated revenues compared to those 3 outstanding bond payments. And as you can see, towards the beginning, there's a little bit of RDC revenues that are needed to help pay off those bonds. A big portion of that downfall is from originally is the apartments and having the SEA 1 deductions decreasing the estimated TIF initially thought to have. So there are a little bit of revenues from the RDC that are needed, which I will show on the next slide, which are sufficient to be covered. So as mentioned, this blue shaded in the back are all available revenues of the RDC after any outstanding bonds have been paid. So this is all remaining revenues after payments have been made. So you can see there are a couple additional pieces that need to be used of redevelopment commission revenues. So you have the outstanding Forza loan, which is the very, very small dark shaded there. And then as mentioned from previous, the red shaded are the RDC revenues needed to help pay the Fieldhouse obligations. I'm going to go into impact on overlapping taxing units from the TIF. So one question that we do like to know is the question of, does TIF take away from the other overlapping taxing units? So when an allocation area is created, it has to pass this but-for test. So would this development happen but for the TIF allocation area to be created? So for example, your Fieldhouse project, it would not have come through or been able to happen had this allocation area not been created. So you cannot say that the TIF is taking away from the overlapping taxing units because this new development would not have occurred if this new allocation area was not created. So looking into the topics with schools, TIF does have a benefit to the schools. Once a TIF area is expired and that new assessed value is passed through to all the overlapping taxing units, the schools will see that assessed value applied to them. However, there's a couple things to kind of keep in mind is like city funds, there's multiple funds that are levy limited. So same with schools, their funds are levy limited. So any new assessed value does not mean new dollars are generated. It might have downward pressure on tax rates and might have a little bit less circuit breaker, but it does not mean that a lot of new dollars will come from any new assessed value that it comes onto the schools. But the schools do see a little bit of, some benefits from TIF. So at least Lebanon, they have a referendum fund or a couple referendum funds. So any assessed value from the TIF areas that are generated does go to that referendum fund because it does capture any new assessed value from TIF areas. So you'll see here, we just kind of list out all of those units that have assessed value from the TIF or that receive it. And so those assessed values will be a little bit higher just because those referendum funds are capturing the incremental assessed value from TIF allocation areas. Going into a final slide, we like to keep in here and just kind of showing what TIF has done, especially for industrial park TIF area. It has helped fund $22 million of infrastructure within that allocation area. And if it wasn't for that TIF, an alternative would have been a property tax bond, which could have required to have a new tax rate. And it also would have increased circuit breaker credits and caused additional revenue loss. But one thing with your industrial park is that not all buildings within that are being captured by the TIF. So there are some buildings within that industrial park that did increase the assessed value of the overlapping taxing units because they were not being captured by the TIF. And then same with some personal property parcels are not being captured within that TIF area and are to the tax base. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Annika. Any questions from the commission on our annual TIF report? Well, thank you again for the information. Always a lot to digest, but I think it's obviously very important for us to understand where we're at, where we're going. So appreciate the hard work.
Thank you.
With that, I show only one other item up on our agenda, and this is a discussion around a grant funding request with the Lebanon Community School Corporation. We have Dr. Milliman with us tonight, and also I'm going to have you introduce her title because I don't have her title memorized.
I brought the heavy artillery tonight. This is the principal of our preschool, Lauren Huff, who will be able to answer any curricular questions and planning questions for the building as well. So she's doing a great job.
Absolutely. So as you guys know, early childhood education as well as child care have been a huge topic of discussion, not only for our taxing district, but really across the state and across the nation. So I think that we're in a unique position to be able to come alongside and work in partnership to assist our TIF district companies in some unique ways, especially with some passage of some new bills. So Dr. Milliman has a little bit of a highlight on some changes at the school that are moving forward, as well as a request for us of partnership that would assist. So I'll turn
Thank
it
you,
over
and
to
I
you.
appreciate, we had a work session on this a few months ago as well. We really appreciate the dialogue and ability to talk to you about what's happening in our preschool and pre-K environment that we've created and will open here in August. The pre-K for Lebanon schools will be located in 2 locations. The main campus here in Lebanon will have the bulk of the classrooms. We have 5 community classrooms available there alongside our developmental preschool, special education preschool also be in the same building. And then we will be operating 2 classrooms out of Perryworth Elementary as well as part of the program. So at full capacity, our community pre-K will be able to make a difference for 154 students. That would be 22 students per classroom. We've worked very hard at creating a high quality pre-K experience. That's certainly incredibly important as you think about the impact on the economic development and vitality of a community. Happy to share several research articles with the RDC, but didn't want to give you an avalanche of paperwork before this evening's meeting. But there's several research articles and research studies about your return on investment in a community for every dollar spent in quality pre-K. We believe we're checking that box. We're committing to fill the classrooms with certified teachers. These are teachers who have trained to be teachers, early childhood educators, and then a paraprofessional in each of the classrooms as well. Full-time on-staff nurse, full-time principal, office staff. Also investing in software that not only will help the families communicate with the school, but it would be used to check students in and out each day. So trying to check all the boxes, SRO on duty at the building as well, which is the same as our schools. But what really makes that difference and checks that box is the high quality pre-K. And we know that there's others as well. And when we've talked about this with the RDC, that's what we tried to keep in mind in this kind of early ask or discussion here, knowing that we're working with 4-year-olds to open the building, but it's our first year. So I think it's an evaluation year in knowing what the need is and whether we fill all those seats. There's things that we will explore in the future. Do we expand to 3 and 4-year-olds, for example, down the road, depending on how that enrollment pans out over the next year or so with that enrollment. So we put the number together today just to try to get some impact, because we know that tuition cost is a barrier for many of our families. We operate a school district that is approximately year over year, 50% of our student body qualify for free and reduced lunch within our district. I hesitate sometimes to use those numbers because it depends on which target of poverty and which target of which metric you use. There's so many overlapping metrics that it depends on which one you're using. But as a general rule, we are around, I think we were 47% last year as a district. So certainly when you think about operating high quality childcare, daycare, preschool, that comes with a cost and makes it inaccessible to a lot of our families that live and work in our community. So the ask for funding is really to put downward pressure on that and to make this closer to being accessible to more families. So in the ask, you'll see, I think I actually created a box around it to make it simple. So you have to read all the words, cut to the chase, so to speak, on the documents I shared with you. Some flexibility around what those dollars could be spent on, because if I said to you tonight, well, we'll take these dollars and we will make the before and after school care at no cost for all families. That's one way you could say it. However, that's going to be a moving target over time. Not every family takes advantage of before and after school care. So do we want to talk about it in terms of just lowering costs altogether for families? So I gave you an example of that. Potentially employing another paraprofessional, for example, to extend the hours before and after school care to make it more accessible to the people who live and work in our community. All of those could be true as long as the funds are there for us to be able to apply them in the necessary place to make pre-K more accessible. Just a couple, jots back of the napkin math before this evening's meeting. When I was looking at our tuition and tiers that we've created, which you have in your packet as well. These are just, again, back of the napkin kind of math. If we had 20% of our families, if we had a full pre-K, the whole 154 seats full, and 20% of the families were getting tier 1 assistance, which is the first level of assistance, and 20% of the student body getting the second level or the most assistance, that would be approximately $150,000 over the course of a full school year to make up the gap between whether they would be full paid. So that would give you a ballpark of what kind of impact the ask would make on a before and after school look. If 20% took advantage of both before and after school, that would be a $60,000 expense if it was offered at no cost. Again, you'd have to have 20% of your student body take advantage of that. That again is a moving target, because sometimes our workers in our community might have the ability for a grandma or grandpa to pick the child up or drop them off, and they only use before, or they only use after, or they don't need either one. What we're interested in is lowering that tuition cost to a cost point that folks can take advantage of it, whether it be tuition only or tuition plus before, tuition plus after, or any of the options. So a lot there, a mouthful, I know. There are a lot of moving targets right now, certainly in year 1 of the program. As we're ramping this up, I think we're approaching 50% or so full as we stand here this evening. So we do have seats for our students in the community and folks working in the community. And I know, as Corey mentioned, there's been some legislation. I'm happy to talk about that as well this evening. I had a conversation with HB 1177's author today to make sure that we were clear on her intent when she authored the bill. But there are some options there for our community businesses for tax credits, et cetera. And I know Mrs. Huff and our office is more than willing and stand ready to have conversations with businesses about how they may want to take advantage of that. And that would mean somehow maybe procuring seats for their particular business. And that way we would have maybe a little bit more predictable enrollment year over year, which would give us a little bit better fix on this as we would look at year 2, 3, and 4. So just a lot to think about. It's exciting. We're learning this as we go as well. And we're also cognizant of the fact that there are other providers in the community, whether infant through 3, and some that are servicing 4-year-olds as well. So, that we wanted to be aware of that as well as we brought this to you today and be reasonable with that conversation. So hopefully I checked a few of your boxes on your questions, but we're here to answer any questions you might have along with Mrs. Huff.
I think the first thing I wanted to highlight and talk through, early in conversations, there was a lot around the time frame of schooling and access to the high quality education. And it has become more clear that, I mean, this program really is a 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. program. So as you look at full day coverage, now that's going to look different at 7 a.m. versus at, 9, 10 a.m., what we're doing and curriculum and that sort of thing. But you still have a safe place for kids to be.
Correct. And we're not outsourcing our before and after school care for our pre-K. As you mentioned that, 7 to 5:30. We are staggering the work hours of our paraprofessionals. So our before and after school care will be staffed with the staff members our students will see in the classroom. So these are our full-time staff members of the school. It's not an outside entity. And that we did that to be able to lower costs, quite frankly, as well, and to be able to stagger that. So we've tried to keep cost in mind throughout this entire process. So thank you for bringing that up.
Other questions from the commission from any of the paperwork we've seen, or now that we have two folks in front of us?
I got is I just want to make sure that we can legally do this to give them a grant or some kind to help them out.
Yeah, and
Are we, according to the law, can we do this type?
And obviously Rob can answer that better than I. I think there's, well, do you want to kind of speak to where you're sitting as of this
Yeah,
moment?
I think the big thing, and I know Dr. Millman said he just spoke to the author of the bill. I think one of the things that I mentioned to Corey is, we would like to, depend upon what the commission's direction is I would suggest if you want us to move forward, it would be some type of grant agreement with, confirming with Baker Tilly, but it would have to be, again, it's this ask in this letter is a little different than what we were talking about, I know, at the working session, which was a working session, right?
Yep,
so,
correct.
And a lot of things were thrown
Correct.
out. So,
Correct.
This, assuming that the commission would like for us to do it, then we want to verify that this ask would be permissible. We'd suggest putting it in some type of grant agreement with these options and then circulating it, and we could, move on that quickly.
Yeah.
If you want.
I did pluck the new addition of the Indiana Code out to share this evening. The new language says verbatim that an allowable, I should say this here, except as otherwise provided in the section property tax proceeds in excess of those described in subdivisions 1 and 2, may be used by the redevelopment district to do one or more of the following, and then this is new item L, because you have that long list, right? Item L that was added was expend money or provide financial assistance, including grants or loans, to entities for the purpose of encouraging or incentivizing the construction, expansion, or ongoing operation of childcare facilities that are in the allocation area or serving the allocation area. I think that last piece of that, not having the credentials behind my name that Shine has, or serving the allocation area, seems to me as an important addition to this. And talking to Representative Cash today to clarify that her intent of the bill, that serving the allocation area, serving Lebanon, serving the Lebanon area, certainly checks that box from her perspective. Devil's always in the details. We know that, right? So I certainly respect your need to be able to answer that question. Yeah.
And it also noted the operations of too, not just the
Right.
construction of, or not just capital expenditure.
I think that was a
but
big addition as well.
Operations
Right.
too.
Yeah, and I would just add, and we talked about this at our working session. This is a very big change from the legislature, and being able to use TIF for this. And again, I think what we would suggest if the commission wants us to move forward is memorializing it in this agreement to track the statutory language, verify everything, come back. Again, if you want us, we can move promptly on it.
Great. Happy to talk more.
Questions?
Dr. Millen, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lebanon Community Schools is a open enrollment tuition transfer acceptance school corporation?
Yeah, we don't really transfer much tuition as much anymore, Dr. Schiller, as you know, because it comes from the state of Indiana. 100% of that does. Yes, that's correct. So,
This will be applied to the preschool, correct?
yeah,
Okay, thank you.
yep. I would add potentially folks who may not reside here do work here and work in the allocation areas in many cases. We don't ask parents when they enroll their students where they work. That's not a matter of our enrollment process. But I'm confident that that's probably, that would be the case in many cases. And I would hope that it's some entities like this in our community that pique their curiosity to move here. So.
And I mentioned that. I applaud the initiative. I think I see this as an economic development contributor. It's a great educational addition to Lebanon Community Schools. A quality preschool exceeds what is a normal before and after school care facility. It better prepares so we'll know the impact in 13 years or 14 years. But I think that is also from the economic development standpoint, which I believe is what the RDC is focused on, that this offers opportunity to not only provide quality education, but to also enhance our community, both to our residents and to those that we know in the very near future will be working here in the Lebanon boundaries, the Lebanon Community School Corporation boundaries. And the fact, too, I give you a compliment, Dr. Milliman, for both the Perry Worth site, the two sites. I mean, if you've had a Chick-fil-A lately, you know Whitestown's growing beyond the LA Cafe. And so having the foresight to put that opportunity in that vicinity, I think your biggest challenge is going to be maxing out quickly beyond 154 students.
I hope so.
I think that's it. And then to have the affordability of this option, I think is critical. So it's just, but it all comes down to, as our attorney says, we want to make sure this is a legal action. We don't want to promise and then have it pulled. And legislators have the best of intention until it gets to the legal legislative review, and then those intentions go the way the lawyers say. So anyway, that's basically, I really believe this has the potential to have an economic development influence that will not only be short-term and provide quality learning for our Lebanon community students, but will have long-term benefit to the economic development that we continue to see and strive for in our community.
Thank you.
I think furthermore, I mean, I've sat in meeting after meeting after meeting after additional meeting about childcare, the need for childcare, and education within our boundaries, Boone County as a whole. And we've done a lot of talking. And in my opinion, somebody has got to be the person that puts a foot forward and says, I'm in, and moves the discussion past a discussion and into action. So, I think we're to that point where pending, obviously legal review, I think this is a step that would be very big for not just the school corporation, not just the Redevelopment Commission, but our entire area as others look at us for guidance. So
I will share that we will be having our ribbon cutting for the preschool facility on August 4th. And at that ceremony, we're going to be honoring our Lebanon High School class of 1970. Who has agreed to be our founding donor at the sustaining donor level at an amount of $50,000. And so we can't thank them enough. I just think it's the coolest thing ever that class of 1970 is organized and have raised funds to be able to make a difference generationally for kids. I just think that's awesome. I bring that up because it is going to be them with the ceremonial check and their name on the wall as a alumni group and community group that we'll be able to honor. And then certainly if we have groups such as yourself, that causes momentum in a community. You know, people take notice of that. We are in an aggressive campaign to raise funds for this. The Lebanon Educational Foundation is housing that preschool access fund for us. As I shared with you in the letter, the state does not fund preschool. And there's a couple funding mechanisms within what our requirements are as a school district that we cannot run the preschool fund in the red. And we report that twice a year. So it will be the preschool access fund funds that close that gap for us on June 30th and December 31st every year, which is why we're aggressively looking for assistance. And it's folks like the class of 70 and any other assistance we can have that will help us get to that end. So.
President, prior to a motion, I would suggest we have the dollar amount read into public record before we make a motion. I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I believe, do you want to?
Sure. I mean, we were respectfully requesting a grant of $100,000 at this time. And I've outlined, the reasons for that for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Millman.
Any other questions for Dr. Millman? So with,
I will make a note. I obviously stand on one side of this as a school board member too. It's a unique situation. So I will abstain from this vote just to be above board. I don't think it really would be an issue. However, I'm just going to abstain as well.
I appreciate that. So it really is the will of the commission. If anyone would like to make a motion, anything that would be included, I would definitely recommend subject to legal review and guidance. And then based on that, that would allow us to move forward then.
Make a motion?
Yeah.
That we approve the $100,000 request for Lebanon Community School preschool before and after program, pending approval with legal review. Then with no 100,000, I mean, yeah, that's my motion.
With legal review and
Is that the terminology, Rob, or you want something else? Okay.
I'll second.
so we do have a motion and a second. Yes.
And the question for Rob, I know Dr. Milliman's looking for a pretty quick, since they're opening here in less than 30 days.
Opening with it or without it.
So Rob, your estimated time on the turnaround for that review and recommendation?
Yeah, we can move, if it's your will, promptly, immediately. I think the one thing that we would want to have this body approve, assuming that we believe it's going to be authorized by statute, which I know our preliminary determinations have been that as long as we put it together in a grant agreement, again, tracking the
I think the grant
statute.
agreement is very consistent with the language in the bill, grant or loan, so we could craft something together, so.
And I would envision that this body then would approve that grant agreement and to be, entered into with the school corporation or something to that effect.
Happy to come back in August if you need to.
If I don't know, if this body wants to have a special meeting, but to answer your question on timing, I would say 2 weeks or less.
But I was just trying to be considerate of Lebanon
Yeah.
Community Schools and what they're wanting to know.
No, I think, your regular meeting in August to finalize those things would be absolutely fine from our standpoint. We're going to open with it or without it, so.
That
is how
board
we have to take a
could
pay
it be
cut.
authorizing president to sign the final grant.
Body is. I mean,
So-
it's a-
Yeah. So again, we want to make sure we're following the right lines. So we do have a motion and a second. With this in mind, I might recommend maybe amending the motion to whatever the will is, whether it authorizing the president to sign after legal review and council, or to be ratified at the August meeting. So
I don't have.
August meeting. Okay.
Yep, August will be fine. I think,
So,
try to be respectful of the start of school.
yep. So just to clarify for the minutes. So the motion, you're saying then amend to approve the request with ratifying the grant documentation at our regular August meeting. Is that pending legal review? So that motion, we still have the second. So with that being said, clear as mud. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. And Mr. Parks abstains. So the motion to approve and move forward with grant paperwork in the month of August. So
Appreciate your ongoing support. We'll be back in August to thank you again, hopefully. We'll work together, so appreciate you all.
thank you guys very much for being here this evening, taking time to inform not only us, but also the public on all the great things happening in the school system. This is just one of many things that have happened in the last 12 months with the school system. So pretty exciting. I believe that is all of our agenda items right there on time. So I would entertain a motion to pay our claims.
Make a motion to pay the claims.
We've got a motion to pay and a second. All those in favor, please signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. And the favorite of the evening, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We've got a motion and a second for that as well. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you very much for joining. We will see you at the next meeting.